Hi everyone, this is Amy from the Helms Academy, and today we'll be doing our Math Roundtable recap from October 22nd, 2020. So we always start with the same steps, which are the steps to solving a word problem. First, we're going to highlight or underline our important information, or just identify it in some way. And then we're going to take that important information and determine what operations we need to use, such as adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. And then we can write it out using the numbers and the operations, and that'll make it easier to solve. So our first word problem says Jody's English quiz scores are 56, 93, 72, 89, and 87. What is the median of her scores? Well, in this case, you see the word median. So we need to highlight that information. We also need to note that there are 5 scores that we're working with. Now, in mean, median, and mode, which are the 3 M's you'll hear most often together, median means the middle number. Mean is the average, and mode would be the most often occurring number. So for median, that's all we need to solve here, and all we have to do is put our numbers in order from least to greatest. And that will help us to find which one is in the middle. So in this case, 87 is the number in the middle of all these scores when we put them in order, and that's our final answer. For word problem 2, it says Chuck is making a patio using 1.5-foot cement squares. The patio will be 10 cement squares by 10 cement squares. If the cement squares are placed right next to each other without any space in between, what will the dimensions of the patio be? So you can see we have different options here, and they're all in a certain number of feet by a certain number of feet. And because it's a square, we know it'll be the same length on every side. Now, to figure this out, we need to put together the 10 cement squares in 1.5 feet each, and then we just multiply that. So if we multiply the 10 squares by the 1.5 feet of space that each square takes up, then we'll get 15 feet. So our final answer then is D, 15 feet by 15 feet. For word problem 3, it says a librarian is returning library books to the shelf. She uses the call numbers to determine where the books belong. She needs to place a book about perennials with a call number of 635.93. Between which 2 call numbers should she place the book? So we have all of these call numbers listed down here, and really this problem is just identifying where the decimal places go and how to put decimals in order. This is a really practical question, as many of us have been to a library and have seen this system before, and you may need to figure out where to put a book back on the shelf after you get it off. So in here, we really only have one number, and that's our 635.93. And the information that we need to use is where do we put that number in between these other numbers? Where does it fit? So to me, the easiest thing to do would be to lay it out in a way where we can see how all these numbers would fit together. Now, decimals can be a little bit difficult to deal with because sometimes it's hard to compare numbers. Like for example, if I see 0.8 and 0.93, my brain wants to say 0.93, 93 is way bigger than 8. But in reality, the thing we can do to make sure we're accurately comparing our decimals is to make sure they all have the same number of decimal places. And an easy way to do that is to just add zeros where they're missing. So for the purpose of today, you'll see in letter C, we have one option that has 3 decimal places to it. So we're going to make sure all of our options have 3 decimal places by adding zeros where they are missing those decimal places. Now, that won't change the value of our decimals. So we can see where all these zeros are added. All it does is make it a little easier to read. It doesn't change the value at all. So the reason this works is now we can say, okay, 0.930. Does that go in between 800 and 900? Well, no, because 930 is bigger. How about between 800 and 950? Yeah, it would fit there. What about between 935 and 940? Well, no, because it's smaller than 935, so it wouldn't fit between those two. And 990 and 636 with zeros at the end, still too high, wouldn't fit between those. So our ultimate answer then is B. It would go between 635.8, and 635.95. Our fourth word problem says Coastal Cable had 1,440,000 customers in January of 2002. During the first half of 2002, the company launched a huge advertising campaign. By the end of 2002, they had 1,800,000 customers. What was the percent of increase? So we need to know how many customers did they have at the beginning of 2002? 1,440,000. And how many at the end? 1,800,000. And they're trying to figure out what's the percent increase between these numbers. So to find that, we need to take two steps. First, we need to figure out what the difference is between these two. So we will start with our new number of customers at the end of 2002, and we'll subtract the original number of customers. And that gives us 360,000 new customers during this year. So with that information, we have to figure out how much 360,000 is out of the original amount that we had, because that'll tell us what percentage of our original amount we increased by. So to figure that out, I take the difference between these numbers, 360,000, and I divide it by our old number, 1,440,000. And that gives me 0.25. And we know 0.25 is 25%. For word problem 5, it says, if twice the quantity x plus 6 is divided by -4, the result is 5. Find the number. So here we'll be solving for a variable, but we need to pay attention to all the pieces. So first, we want to look at all the different things that are mentioned here. For example, twice. Even though it doesn't say times 2, we know that twice means times 2. So we need to keep that in mind as we're putting all the pieces together. So twice the quantity of x plus 6 divided by -4, and then we see result is 5, which means that all of that will equal 5. So if we put it together, here we have our twice, 2 times the quantity of x plus 6, which I put together in parentheses. All of that is divided by -4, and that equals 5. So now we can solve it. So to get rid of the -4 divided by -4, we need to multiply by -4. So that will leave us with just the 2 times x plus 6. And then on the other side, we'll do 5 times -4 because we have to do the same thing on both sides of the equal sign, and that will give us -20. Now to get rid of that times 2, we're going to do divided by 2. So that'll leave x plus 6 by itself. And when we divide -20 by 2, we get -10. Now our final step is to get rid of that plus 6 so that we can get the x all by itself. So we'll do the opposite, -6 from both sides. So x plus 6 and -6, that cancels out. X is by itself, and that gives us x equals -10 minus 6, which is -16. Thank you so much for solving with me today. I hope you learned something new, and good luck on all of your tests as you're preparing for them. We have tons of other videos on this channel that you can check out to help you prepare for your GED, HiSET, or TASC tests. So be sure to subscribe so you can get all the latest updates. You can also check out the Helms Academy on Facebook and Instagram and at helmsacademy.org.